Have you ever really looked at a cluster of dates, the way it hangs from the palm? I mean, really looked at how they're stacked? You see segment after segment, disc after disc. Well, if you put that image next to a drawing of the human spine, you see something pretty remarkable.
And here's the thing, it's not just a casual resemblance. The pattern is actually proportional. And this visual echo, this signature, was definitely not lost on the ancient world. They saw a clue in the fruit to the very structure that holds us all upright.
You know what? For millennia, people called the date palm the tree of life. And that wasn't just some poetic nickname. It turns out modern science is just now starting to understand the biochemistry behind that symbol, revealing why this ancient fruit is so incredibly important for our own internal tree of life, the spine. But before we get into the science, we have to understand the significance. Why? Why was this one tree and this one fruit held in such high regard? Scripture actually uses the palm tree as a symbol for resilience and strength. It says the righteous don't just grow, they flourish like a palm tree. That's a really powerful image of vitality, of being upright and deeply, deeply rooted. And the palm was just woven into the fabric of daily life back then. Its fronds were actually required for sacred festivals. Entire cities, like Jericho, were literally known as the City of Palms. For these ancient civilizations, it was truly their nutritional and economic backbone. So you have to ask yourself, was this visual link between the date cluster and the spine just a coincidence? Or was it an ancient observation, pointing to a much deeper biochemical function, a pattern deliberately placed in nature for us to find? Let's investigate. Our investigation starts with the first piece of the puzzle, and that's the very foundation of spinal health, the muscles that hold the entire structure together. It's easy to think of the spine as just a static tower of bone, right? But it's not. It's this dynamic, flexible column held in place by a whole complex web of muscles. And for those muscles to properly contract, relax, and give stable support, they need one mineral in particular, magnesium. And this is where the biochemistry of the date gets so compelling. Dates are a fantastic source of this crucial mineral. We're talking 54 milligrams in a standard 100-gram serving. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Clinical studies show a direct link. When your magnesium levels are too low, the muscles supporting your back can weaken, they can cramp, and they can ultimately fail to keep the spine stable. And that leads directly to chronic pain. But of course, strong muscles are only as good as the bones they're anchored to. So let's move on to the second mechanism and see how dates help the bones themselves, thanks to a little-known but very powerful trace mineral. Let me introduce you to boron. You may not have heard of it, but its role in keeping your bones healthy is absolutely critical. Its main job is supporting bone mineral density, which basically means making each individual vertebra stronger and more resilient. So how does it do that? Well, you can think of boron as a kind of gatekeeper. It actually helps the body hold on to bone-building minerals like calcium and magnesium, significantly reducing how much you lose. It effectively locks them into your skeleton, right where you need them most. And the evidence for this is really solid. Clinical studies, especially on postmenopausal women who have a higher risk for bone loss, show that getting enough boron in your diet measurably improves bone density. What does that mean in the real world? A spine that is tougher and far more resistant to fractures. So dates provide minerals to support the muscles and to strengthen the bones. But there's a third really pervasive factor in chronic back pain that dates also address head-on, and that's inflammation. You see, dates are packed with antioxidants known as phenolic compounds. You can think of these as a sort of natural fire brigade, moving through your body to quiet down the biochemical signals that trigger and sustain chronic inflammation. And the pharmacological studies on this are even more specific. Research shows that extracts from the date palm directly reduce the levels of two key inflammatory markers, interleukin-6 and TNF-alpha. Now, these are two of the main culprits behind the pain and tissue damage you see in things like degenerative disc disease. The takeaway here is incredibly practical. For anyone managing a condition like spinal arthritis or degenerative disc disease, this anti-inflammatory action isn't just theoretical. It has direct clinical significance for managing pain and preserving tissue. So, when we put all the evidence from these three mechanisms together, the picture becomes crystal clear.
What the ancients observed as a simple visual resemblance, we can now understand as a sophisticated biochemical pattern.
The date fruit delivers this amazing three-pronged strategy for spinal health. It gives you magnesium to support the muscles, boron to reinforce the bones, and these potent compounds to control the inflammation that drives so much chronic pain.
And that brings us right back to where we began. That ancient verse, it now reads less like a simple metaphor and more like a piece of profound biological wisdom. To flourish like the palm tree is to be structurally sound, to be resilient and strong from the inside out. Qualities these three mechanisms directly support. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? The link between the date and the spine was hidden in plain sight, a pattern recorded in scripture and finally decoded by science. What other secrets in God's pharmacy are just waiting for us to look closely enough to understand?